Hey, on my Travel Ones podcast, I'm lucky to have Jim Cressman. How are you today, Jim?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. Jim is what's your official title? CEO, president, big dog, jefe, boss?
Yeah, you can go with any of those. I'm the founder and president of Invictus Entertainment Group. Founded the company almost 9 years ago now with my wife, and we've got 6 full-time employees, multiple part-time employees who travel all over the world to cover the shows that we promote and produce in places like Alaska, Hawaii, and all throughout Canada, which is, where we do about 97% of our business, but we do some we've gotten so good at promoting and producing shows in tertiary and secondary markets in Canada that we figured, why not just add Alaska and Hawaii to the mix? So we do some shows down there too. And yeah, right now it's been, a lot of rescheduling, a lot of, helping the artists that we represent maintain their sanity by giving them some level of certainty. And so, So far so good.
Yeah. So the one thing I liked about Invictus was, you're an agency, but you're also a promoter. So, and you manage acts.
Right.
So you're kind of a full circle business in that sense, where you get to know all aspects of the business.
Yeah, I think for me that the impetus for that was twofold. Number one, I'm one of those people who's really addicted to growth. So I love the music business. I wanted to learn as many aspects of it as I could, and I've always found that I learn better by being a practitioner. People can tell me what to do. I can watch instructional videos, but really, if I want to learn something, I have to do it. Like I gotta do it myself. And so that's been great. And then the other side of it was, just becoming more full service, so that you're not necessarily relying on other people to get your artists out on the road and really monetize their ability to make a living. If you're reliant on, a concert promoter, and basically your only option these days is either Live Nation or AEG, well, then you've got to work within the terms that they'll present for your clients. And sometimes those terms don't work for me. So I like to give Live Nation a little bit of a run for their money in Canada every once in a while. And
good for you.
And get my clients out on the road and keep them as busy and happy and as compelled as I can. So yeah, we've been fortunate enough to work with, everybody from the Zac Brown Band and Carrie Underwood to, Alice Cooper, Def Leppard, and Ringo Starr, all over the map. Thematically, and that's given us a really powerful skill set to understand the marketing initiatives that will best benefit the clients that we put into those markets that we actually manage. So yeah, it's been good journey so far for sure.
How much traveling have you done? Are most of your main gigs in BC, and then or is it literally just up and down Canada?
I'm about 150 days a year.
Wow.
When I go to the U.S., it's typically, where we're doing shows in, say, Alaska or Hawaii. But other than that, we do a lot of trips to Nashville, New York, Los Angeles, where a lot of the major agencies are located.
Okay.
We also do a ton of travel in Canada. So, I would say that 97% of what we do is coast to coast in Canada. So there is some travel within BC, but a lot to Alberta, a lot to Saskatchewan, and Ontario is, probably almost half of our business. So there's a lot of travel back and forth there as well. And I certainly used to enjoy being on the road more when I was younger and when I didn't have a family at home, or kids at home. It's a little harder now, but it's also really positive in some aspects, because my oldest daughter, who's 8, came to me one time and said, I know how much you enjoy spending time with Maverick and myself, and that's her little sister. And so she said, I can't imagine how much you love your job. And I think that's a good thing. And I'm like, well, that's a great way for an 8-year-old to encapsulate
what's going on.
One of the important things for finding a purpose in life, right? It's like, it doesn't have to be either or. You can still be a good family man and, still apply yourself to something that reminds your children that's something they should pursue when they're of the age that it's time to pursue it. When you want to pursue a vocation, it's got to be something that really moves you and means something. And so, so the ability to pass that lesson along is worth all the travel in itself.
Well, I find, because I have two daughters that are older now, but obviously I've been traveling pretty much my whole career. The thing I always find with them is when I'm home, I'm really home and I'm very present. And when I'm gone, I still try and stay in touch. And now with thankfully there's, FaceTime and cell phones and texting and, picture sharing. So I'm just I find myself being more present when I'm home. Do you find the same way?
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, when I'm on the road, I'm all about business. So I try and keep my travel periods, to 4 days or less so that I can see my family within the week regardless. And I take them with me when it's feasible and possible as well, which is really nice. My wife runs the company with me, so nice. We have that liberty to pull them out of school on a Friday and take them to Alberta or something. And so that's good. And then, I'm a lot more present when I'm home because when I'm on the road, it's all about, two things, maintaining my health and the business.
Oh, so that'll blend me right into my next section of how do you stay in shape and healthy when you're traveling that much? What are your projects, forms?
So it really just boils down to discipline, right? And it's really easy to get undisciplined on the road because there's a lot of tempting food at catering at every concert, and you're finishing up a day sometimes at midnight, 2 a.m, and it's really easy at that point in time to go indulge in pizza or, eat something that's just way too heavy. So I just do a little pre-planning and research. So the first thing I do when I get into a city, it's like, where's the nearest, good grocery store? I can go stock up my hotel room so that I'm not necessarily eating, the $16 chocolate covered almonds sitting in the hotel room. I've gone to the grocery store and bought a pound of real almonds, right? And I'm gonna pound those back, and some fruit, bananas, anything that sort of keeps easy because you don't always get a refrigerator. So if you get a fridge, obviously you can expand that list a little bit, and then you got to stay fit, and so that means maintaining a schedule. That means regardless of the time zone I'm in, I'm getting up at 6 a.m. and I'm going for a run or a workout or a high intensity workout, which is my favorite, and that's 30 to 45 minutes of just absolutely brutal physical activity, usually a circuit of some sort that just gets me soaked, gets everything, all my blood pumping, all my endorphins rushing, and then I can start my day off properly. And frankly, what I found too is the more I maintain a schedule and discipline on the road, by far the healthier I am, which means, I'm fighting off virus, germs, bacteria. Yeah, I'm just not getting sick. So when I'm on the road, those are two things that are really important: diet and exercise, and then and they all dial back to discipline. And then I do have another hack that's a little outside of conventional wisdom, but I'm a big fan of the intravenous vitamin drips, shots, and pushes. So, they really started in Vegas as hangover cures a few years ago.
Absolutely.
And depending on who you talk to, some people say the science behind it is dubious, but all I know is it works. So, I've had people challenge me on it and go, no, those don't work. That's pseudoscience. And I go, well, I don't know, man. Maybe it's a placebo effect, but when someone puts, a full liter of fluid in me, chock full of vitamins, I feel better. And so that's something that I usually indulge in when I'm on the road too. And I got an hour of spare time. It's like, let's pop in, jack up the vitamin and mineral content in your body. And it just sort of helps keep you between the lines.
I didn't do it this year, but I go to the NFR, the National Finals Rodeo, every year in Vegas. And I'm there for 16 days. I'm there for 16 days. So
where do you usually stay?
We stay at the MGM every time. In the last 4 or 5 years, I've been running the Mandalay Bay booth for us.
that is a good spot to be in.
Well, yeah, we bring in, I think last year was 104 people. So,
yeah,
104 people for 16
nights.
So
how do you do it? I mean, you're on the road a lot. Like, what sort of regime do you adhere to out there, and what do you find works best for you?
I'm not as disciplined as you. I saw your workout from last night, actually, on Instagram, or this morning. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. And you,
last night after the kids went to bed.
And I'm like, oh, and I like when you said, I don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow, but we'll see. I was like, okay, I'm not that disciplined. But what I do is I try and bring, my wife's a Pilates instructor, so I have a little foam roller, and it's I think it's 18 inches wide. It's just wide enough for my back. And so because I drive a lot for work, so when I get to a hotel room, I sit on the roller and just roll my back out because I've been hunched over all morning or all day. And I try and find a gym when I can. And I'm just like you. Like I'll find, if I can get to a good restaurant, I'll do that. But I'll always find a grocery store and load up on trail mix, a lot of almonds, just like you. That's kind of weird that you said that because I was like the same way.
They're so good for the stomach. They've got like the perfect combination of protein, fat, and fiber for me when I'm on the road. Maybe that's too much information for people, but it's like if I'm on a pretty steady diet of almonds, you can throw them in your suitcase. You can carry them with you. If you're backstage at a show, you can literally just pull out a bag and eat them. Like I've got no shame about it because it's a great food that just for me helps stave off my desire to snack on shit.
That's my biggest. When you said that, I'm like, man, that's me. Because it's like you said, there are towns that I go to where there aren't good restaurants, and there aren't. I've been to some very, very, very small towns, and 93 people, and so that I'm trying to find decent food at a gas station, for one night, and it's usually almonds.
Yeah.
It's trying to stay away from the bad stuff as much as possible.
Well, yeah, you're right.
But I had a friend that did that.
Sometimes if you're getting in late and you're landing in you're landing in a relatively small city, and the amenities are going to be short like that. That's when it's good to grab a Ziploc bag and dump a pound of almonds in there from home, throw it in your bag, and at least you've got something.
The only negative with almonds is they're expensive, and I found out they're expensive because they are the most water. What is it? They require the most water of all the nuts and vegetables and fruits, at least here in California, which I did not know. Mm-hmm. They soak up the water.
Interesting. I did not know that either.
Yeah. So like, how can they be $8 and like peanuts are $2? So I looked it up and I was like, oh. Yeah. They consume more water than any other plant that we grow.
I did not know that. I did not know that at all. That's interesting, and it's still something that works. And you got to obviously think about the environmental impact of what you're doing. But I'll take it over what I would probably eat in its place, which would be a chocolate bar and or donuts.
Well,
I've got I don't know about you, but I've got a real proclivity for bad food, and if I don't get ahead of it, it's just too easy for me to indulge in that.
Well, and what's sad is when I was in my 20s and 30s, it kind of didn't matter. I burned so much energy and stuff that I could eat garbage, and now 40s and the 50s, it's like, oh my God, it really shows, and it like you said, it's such a big difference in how you feel throughout the day. If you can start on a good day, good moment. But I had a friend in Vegas who did that. She got a little drunk one night. Imagine that. And she did that IV thing. and she was already kind of feeling like a little cold or a flu. Not a flu, but probably just a cold. And she said she did that IV thing and it was like magic to her. I was like, really? And thankfully this year I didn't get bad. Because I'm trying to be better. Last 2 years, I haven't gotten sick from being at NFR. And I'm around 30,000 people a day for 10 days straight. So I'm just
that's pretty impressive.
Wow, and the other thing I started doing is I only go out every other night. So I won't go out.
Yeah, that's smart.
I won't go out multiple nights in a row.
Do you limit your alcohol intake?
What's that?
Do you limit your alcohol intake?
Oh yeah. I'm not a big drinker. I had a glass of wine, and if I have a glass of wine, it gets me tipsy now. I don't drink a lot of alcohol, but I drink more alcohol that 2 weeks.
I'm a fellow cheap drunk. My Irish ancestors would be disappointed in me for sure, but
mine too.
I just find that when I'm drinking, I actually don't enjoy that sensation that much. It just doesn't. I mean, the cost / benefit, it just doesn't weigh out for me. So I pretty much stopped drinking entirely over a year ago. I mean, once in a while I'll have a little gin and soda when I'm home sitting on the deck with my wife. Like I might have one, but when I'm on the road, I just don't drink anymore. And it pisses off some of my clients who want to have a shot before the show, and they're all in this celebratory mood. But I'm like, yeah, I'll stick with my soda water. I'm getting to the age now where it just knocks me back for 2 or 3 days to be hungover, and I just can't afford it. So it's not a moral decision as much as it is just a decision made out of practicality.
Well, for me, but I always tell the younger people, that are in their 20s, and they go to NFR and they think, man, I'm in Vegas. It's Vegas. I'm going to party. I go, just so you know, it's a work trip. I go, you never know who's around you. And so when you get a little tipsy or even drunk and you start talking smack about a competitor or, an endorsee or whoever, you don't know if their best friends are sitting right behind you. And I've had
that's very true.
I've had some instances in my life where I had a guy get fired because his wife got tipsy at a Christmas party and spoke out of turn to the wife of the guy's boss. Came back next day and got fired. Like, okay.
Oh man.
So I guess because I've had those experiences, I'm maybe overly careful. And for me, I travel alone most of the time, except for the NFR trip and some of the other rodeos. But for the most part, I'm by myself, so I don't drink and drive because if I can't get a DUI, man. I mean, I drive for a living.
No.
So I go.
No, exactly. That would really cut into your ability to make a living.
So why have for me, it's why have a $12 glass of wine when I'll just have a water or lemonade or a Coke and then just call it a night. It's like, because I can't have more than one.
And feel way better about it.
I can't get tipsy because I don't want to drive tipsy, especially. So, but in Vegas, man, I'll tell you, I made a joke. I think it was 2 years ago. I said I drink more in the 10 days, 16 days of Vegas for NFR than I do the other, 50 weeks of the year, because I'm not driving, so I can go out and I had some drinks with Cowboy Troy. I don't know if you know Cowboy Troy. He plays a lot with Big and Rich.
Yeah, of course.
And
of course.
So John Rich has his Redneck Riviera whiskey, and Troy's working with him on the whiskey and the marketing end of it. And so we went out to dinner one of the nights with the regional sales manager of Redneck Riviera whiskey. He was in Vegas just for the night, and I did some whiskey shots that night. That was a long night. But then the next night I don't go out, so I'm good. So that's how I've figured it out.
That's the way to do it.
I cannot.
It sounds like a good system for the world you're in.
Well, I have some people in their 20s, and I mean they don't go to sleep. And I always tell them, I go, man, as long as you're in the lobby at 9 a.m. and ready to work, I don't care what you do at night. And they know. I said, we don't wait for you. At 9:03, the van is leaving. You have to catch a cab, or you don't get paid that day. So,
I think that's a good lesson. My parents had that same rule when I was a kid. They basically had two rules around drinking, and they introduced me to alcohol at home with them when I was technically still a minor. in order to get rid of the sort of the stigma around, oh, you can't drink around your parents. But my parents were really good. My mom would say, listen, as long as you're home to do your chores at 5:30 a.m., you can stay out as late as you want. Like, this is once I got, old enough to drink legally. It's like, you can stay out as late as you want. You've got chores at 5:30. And she said, and if I can tell you've been drinking, then you've been drinking too much. So you can drink as much as you want.
Yeah.
But if I can tell you're drunk, you've gone too far. And so she was like, those are the two rules. I shouldn't be able to tell, because really, if you want to promote responsible drinking, it's not no drinking. It's that you should be able to enjoy a drink. And if you're getting to the point where people can tell you're drunk, you've gone too far, and that's probably true. And then, fulfill your obligations. And so with that sort of fundamental foundation at the base of that habit, it set some ground rules really early for me that ended up being really profoundly powerful as I grew into adulthood. It was like, do what you want, but maintain your discipline.
Well, I was going to ask, I haven't talked to a manager of acts before. So the question I wanted to ask you about traveling is, how big of a conversation, before you sign an artist, how do you have a conversation about, hey, here's what, do you ask them what they expect out of travel, or do you know what I mean? Is it, because like if you sign a guy, because I guess I'm trying to think the right way to put it. If a band's not touring, they don't make as much money, from my understanding.
Right.
So do you ever run into an act that goes, hey, I don't like to travel that much, or I'm very particular about travel? Do you have to work around everyone's specific schedules and ideas?
Not so much in the beginning. I mean, when you're working with an artist who's on their way up, they know what they signed up for. In fact, they want to get out in front of people. They usually want to get the hell out of their hometown. When artists start to become a bit more mature later in their career, maybe they've got a family or they've got grandkids, at some point then we can get really selective about what we commit them to.
Okay.
And so that you sort of evaluate that out differently for each client. I mean, I've got a client, Carolyn Dawn Johnson, who had multiple number one hits in Canada, had a number one hit in the United States. She was out on the road with Miranda Lambert for a few years, and we just set her price in Canada, and it was so simple. It was like, here's the number I need in order to justify in my mind making it worthwhile to leave my kids. And once I had that, and once her and I came to a balance of what the marketplace would give her versus, in terms of opportunities versus, what she wanted, it was like, it just made things so easy. So yeah, she doesn't work a lot, but when she does, she's fucking making money, and she's easily able to justify the associated sacrifice that she has with heading out on the road. And that's what I want people to do. It's not so much, you better be ready to put in 200 days on the road or 250. It's more, hey, what works for you? Because we can keep you as busy as you want to be, or we can raise your price and raise the standards on performances. And, and then there's going to be some pushback from the market. You're not going to be nearly as busy, but every time you do go out, it's going to be worth your while.
It's got to be a fine balance, though, right?
That balance through.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And you can, the good thing is, after 20 years of experience, I generally have a pretty good idea of where that balance is going to be on the marketplace side. So, if I have a client who's typically, let's say I have a client that's $50,000 a night to book, and that's when they're busier than they want to be. Well, I might suggest raising their price to 75 or 100. Now, if we go to 100, they might not have any gigs, right?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like finding that nuanced space somewhere in between. And so far so good. We've been able to adhere to that and or tweak it when we've needed to fulfill their aspirations in that space.
Because I had one singer on. He's on the road 250 to 270 days a year. I was like, wow, man, that's 9 months of the year.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. And listen, if you got young kids or if you've got a drug habit or, it can be devastating to people.
Yeah. Be a lifetime.
Being on the road that much. Like if you've got young kids and you want to be home and you're heartbroken and crestfallen every time you leave, it can really weigh on the mental health of an artist. And that's got to be paramount. And if you're an artist who's a heavy drinker or a drug user and you go out on the road, it literally could mean the end of your life if you don't maintain some discipline. So, I sort of, as a manager, I've always, I don't resent the moniker, but I do reject it. As far as externally, I position myself as a manager, but internally, I've always said to my clients, think of me as a coach. Think of me as a guy who just helps you stay between the lines as it pertains to maintaining the road to the journey to your goal, right?
Yeah.
We set goals together. I help keep you on track. So that way then the relationship is never a power dynamic about you versus me. It's always you and me versus the obstacles between your goals, right? And that feels a little different than I think the general conceptual idea of a manager. It's like, I'm not managing you, you're managing yourself. You're your own human being, but you set these goals out and I'm going to keep you on track and I'm going to remind you of those goals. And there are times when you're going to want to do something and I'm going to challenge you and say, how does this get us closer to the goal that we articulated, 6 months ago or a year ago? You tell me how it helps you achieve that, and then I'm on board. But, if it's a distraction and it's going to waste a bunch of your time and a bunch of money and or take you out of the cycle of achieving what you want to achieve, well then, I'm going to be pretty doggedly determined to get you back on track, and that might create some conflict between the two of us. But that's where it's always coming from, not just me sort of telling you what to do. It's like, no. These are your goals. This is the plan we have to keep you on track for those goals. So let's just remind each other of how important it is to stay on track.
Does that change with every artist?
From that angle? Oh, for sure. And the goals change too sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Things change in people's lives and they go, yeah, you know what? I don't really want to, I don't really want to be out on the road as much as I thought I would. Or, sometimes artists, especially Canadian artists, they want to make a run for a U.S. career. But if things aren't measuring up to their expectations, and of course we always try to measure that in advance, then, they might want to back out. So, we're doing our best to keep people, on the road to their goals while steadily re-evaluating those. And I think that a good coach knows when you've got a legitimate concern and you want to really change the trajectory or the path you're on because of a legitimate reason. And a good coach also knows when you're making an excuse to just not push yourself out of your comfort zone because, you're having a moment. And so it's my job to make that discernment and then work with the artist to help them reveal to themselves whether or not they're, for lack of better terminology, being lazy or actually making a shift.
I think that's a really good analogy, actually, being a coach, because just like when you coach a team, every player is a little bit different, right? I mean, some like being yelled at, some hate being yelled at, some need the extra push, and some push on their own, and you just kind of got to figure that out because everyone's different. But you got to come together as a team. That's a really good analogy. Yeah, I mean
that's the best way I can summarize it. I'm not a big fan of really stringent management contracts, and I'm not a big fan of I think that roles need to be somewhat fluid, and that my number one goal for you is to help you achieve your goals. So at no point am I just sort of getting power hungry or Yeah, I think you hear, if you've read any biographies about the music business, there's always these managers who are sort of like very totalitarian and tyrannical at times with artists. And it's like, I never want to have that relationship. If I have to force you to achieve what you're potentially capable of achieving, then you don't share in the enjoyment of that. And at the end of the day, you're probably going to find an excuse to fire me anyway. But if I work with you to help you achieve your goals by just maintaining the mental health you need to stay on track and helping execute on the initiatives that we brainstorm, well, then it's almost impossible for me to make the wrong decision, because it's all about the goal. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about how do we get you to where you say you want to be.
That's do you ever get blowback from the artist?
All the time. Yeah. All the time, man. That's part of it. Like, think about yourself. How hard is it to keep yourself on the rails, right? Like, listen, I struggle with discipline too. There are days where I'm like, I don't want to work out. I want to go for a run. I don't want to strap on my 50-pound lead vest and hike up the mountain behind. I don't want to do it, but you do it because, there's a part of you internally that goes, I know I'm just copping out, and I know I don't have a legitimate, honest excuse, and I don't want to let myself down. Now, if you have an external voice that you trust also reiterating that, for me, it just makes it a little bit more easy. And then I can tactfully challenge that artist and go, hey, listen, man, if you want to quit, I'll support you. But don't do it for reasons that you're going to regret, because it'll haunt you. Do it if that's what you need to do. But if it's going to haunt you and fuck you up and wreck your psyche and make you feel like you're going to resent me in 5 years because I should have pushed you to stay on track and I didn't, then it defeats all of us. So, we have those hard conversations internally. And again, I always make it about like, it's a little bit like raising kids, like
exactly.
And I don't mean it to sound derogatory when I say that, or like I'm being condescending, but I say, like, listen, I just want the best for you. And if I focus on that, then I will be taken care of by acclamation. I'm going to make money. I'm going to receive some profile in the business. I'm going to do well because I have maintained my fidelity towards working towards what's best for my client, not necessarily what's always best for me. Right. And it's like that with your kids. It's like you want the best for the best in them, right? Like that's what you want. And it's that same objective when you're managing artists or working with them on a strategic plan. It's like, I want what's best for the best in you. And I know what could be best for the worst in you. We both know what that is. But let's try and work together to steer away from that and work together to, maintain the critical path that we need to maintain in order to get you exactly what you deserve in this lifetime. The legacy and the impact that you want to have on arts and culture and the format and getting out and touring and spreading your message and, making money all the way, of course, right? Like we're all doing this to make a living, but, let's make sure that we're doing it from that we're navigating from the right intentional position. And I do think that that's lost in the business a lot. I think a lot of people get focused purely on the money. They get focused purely on the significance aspect of it. I have artists who, need to be maintained quite vigilantly on reminding them what their overall goals are, because if something comes along that serves the narcissist in them, they will, they'll set their goals and their critical path of objectives aside and jump on that. And it's like, whoa. Is this actually good? Like, is this actually helping us get to where we need to get to? Think about it. And then the great thing is, the reward in it is that at some point they start to become their own best coach. And then my job becomes less and less and less. And just like with a parent, you're always connected to your kids, but you're always trying to work yourself out of a job. I always say that to my daughters. It's like, hey, eventually I'm working myself out of jobs, right? Like, I'll always be your dad, always be here, just like I'll always be their manager if that's what they choose. But I want to work myself out of certain jobs so that you're able to maintain your own independence when it comes to mental health, when it comes to discipline, when it comes to achieving and maintaining your critical path towards your goals. The more I can instill those things in you to get to the point where you think of them automatically and you're responding from a place of positive, intuitive, you've got this intuitive response to do the right thing. The more you do that as an artist, the less of a role I have, but that's good. Ultimately, that's okay. I'm fine with that.
I've told my daughters similar things in a sense. I always tell them, I go, you're driving towards a cliff, and I know the cliff's there because I've been there, and I know where the bridge is. I'm going to tell you where the bridge is. You might not go there directly, and you're going to keep going. You might still want to go towards the cliff because maybe you don't believe, you're an old man, whatever. It's different now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to pull the wheel on them unless they're at the cliff. Because I know they need to experience the cliff just like I had to. Because my dad tried telling me, hey, don't be an idiot, blah, 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 I was like, I'm not an idiot. I know everything. I'm smart. I'm 22, 23. And it's just, and I'm like, here's the bridge, though. It's right there. And they're like, yeah. But it's tough as a parent.
Yeah, it's similar to the analogy of a hot stove. It's like, I don't mind my kid burning their hand to figure out that they can't touch the stove, but I also don't want to see them crawl right inside the stove.
Yeah.
So it's like, same thing with me. It's like, hey, some scrapes, some bruises as you emotionally and physically as you figure things out. That stuff is all just part of the journey, and that's fine. But, I'm going to do everything I can to stop you from catastrophically hurting yourself.
Exactly.
If I see that's a real thing.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. What's the, how have you, as far as technology, because you said you've been doing this for 20 years. So that's not that's not pre-computer, but that's pre-internet, that's pre-cell phones. How much has that changed with your job as a promoter and as a manager?
Well, I mean, we had internet and smartphone and cell phones, but we didn't really have the smartphone capabilities. I mean, the internet's just made it easier to access information, communicate information effectively. There's a bit more accountability on the business side of it, which I really like because now more things are captured in writing. I mean, I'm still old school. I like to talk to people in person and I love to chat on the phone. But when it comes to details, I'm pretty vigilant about making sure my team and I are communicating those explicitly in an email. And if it's an email that I really need a reply to, I'm going to hit them up on that as well. And remind them like, hey, listen, sorry, I just lost my place there for a second. But,
that's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. I think that, that's just important.
Yeah. Because I know as a sales rep, I mean, we used to have to handwrite orders and then we'd mail them in.
Yeah.
And then we got a fax machine. We were like, wow, I don't have to mail it. I can just put it in this thing. I mean, it takes up my phone line, but whatever. I don't have to mail stuff now. And now, geez, man, I scan in a card off a UPC code and I can transmit it with my hotspot. I don't print anything anymore. So it's so weird.
No, it's pretty wild. I mean, technology has really given us a lot of advantages and, so I just take advantage of them. I mean, again, it's another thing that you have to continue to learn and work through. And, we're doing Zoom calls with most of our artists and to talk about digital strategies and, there's learning curves there. And, although Zoom is pretty simple, but still, if you're new to it or some of the artists I work with aren't, they're not heavily technologically literate. Well, then, they've got their challenges too. So, yeah, I mean, so far, there's been as far as I can tell, there's been a massive advantage to moving everything digitally and online, because you're right. Like, whether it's an order in your world or a contract in my world, I can literally call somebody on the phone and say, okay, the contract's been sent. Tell me when it's been, okay, ding, I let it come into your inbox. All right, sign that motherfucker and send it back to me right now. Exactly. You know, like, it's not like you're faxing it or it's going in the mail. So it helps a lot on the accountability front, and it expedites the business, which is a huge benefit to all of us. I mean, the less time you're spending on a deal because you know what the deal should be and you're not involved so much in tracking down the paperwork, then the more deals you can do.
That's exactly right. And, you know, like you were saying earlier, nothing gets lost in the mail, you know, and there's no miscalculation of, oh, I thought that was a 1, it's a 2. And, you know, it's just cleaner business. So, yeah. And for me, when I travel, let me ask you this question. When you're traveling, are you, you're waiting for a plane or even driving, how do you fill up your time? Is it listening to music? Is it relaxing, or is it work? Is it a combo? Is it watching movies? How do you fill up your time?
It's sort of a combination. I mean, you know, I'll treat myself to a movie or an audiobook or a podcast. I mean, I really enjoy what I do for work. So a lot of times if I'm in an airport, for example, I've got a layover, I will walk as many miles as I can. You know, I'll kind of map out like a route, and I'll just do that, you know, cyclically in a big airport like Dallas or Minneapolis. And, you know, while maintaining obviously when I got to be back to my gate, you know, that's important. And I'll get on the phone. I'll just make calls, because most of the airports now have great Wi-Fi. So the service is solid, and, you know, you just get on the phone, make calls, walk around. You know, when it's time to board on the plane, that's a good time for me to, you know, do some emails and get them out before the plane actually takes off, to take advantage of the online Wi-Fi if they have that. If they don't have online Wi-Fi, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just enjoy myself. I'll just go up, you know, I'm in the air for 4 hours. I might as well watch a couple of movies that I've been interested in watching. And you know, I've got I'm disciplined enough that at least from my own perspective, and you know, someone like a hardcore, you know, Joe Rogan or David Goggins might think I'm a wimp, but in my own mind, I'm disciplined enough that I can easily come to terms with, like, oh, you know what? Let's watch a movie. Let's just chill out and listen to this new record that my client dropped, and I can sit with it on the plane, you know, and listen to it over and over again. Yeah. You know, it's one of those things.
Yeah, see, I'm the same way. I listen to a lot of music, and then there's times when I'm driving, I just turn everything off and just drive for like an hour, just let my own thoughts kind of go. But
yeah, there's something to be said for that, right? Like, a lot of us get so busy we don't have time to think anymore. The devices have really closed the gap between what used to be solitude, thinking time, and never being bored. And I'm not sure that that's always good.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day. We're on lockdown here in Southern California, and you know, we can go out and exercise as long as you're not within 6 feet, and you can walk your dog and that kind of thing. But my wife and I, we rollerblade a lot, or roller skate. And
right.
So we started skating, and I remember I started thinking back, like, when I was a kid, you know, whether it was skateboarding or, you know, anything you did, you would just fill up 2 hours of time just doing whatever. And now it's like, I don't know that kids get that anymore. You know,
I mean, I think it depends. It depends on whether or not they're shown the benefit of those things, I think, by their parents, right? Like, that's a huge factor in this. You know, we're very physically active with our kids. We do a lot of hiking, a lot of bike riding. You know, my office, which is just my wife and I occupy it, so it's just us. I mean, it's a few blocks away from our house, but our girls walk down there with us or ride their bikes every morning, every afternoon. They come back with us. They hang out with us there. It also backs onto a really nice nature reserve, so we go out there and look for bugs and birds. And, you know, if kids don't do what you say, they do what you do, right? That's the thing. So if you are active and you prioritize outdoor time for yourself, they're going to
follow suit.
They're going to enjoy it too.
Yeah, totally agree with that. The other thing I remember I was a latchkey kid. Both my parents worked, so especially in the summertime. I mean, you didn't watch TV back in the 70s. You didn't watch TV because it was soap operas during the day, and you only had 4 or 5 channels. So you didn't watch TV. You didn't have computers. You didn't have phones. You just went out and played. It was weird. And so when I was skating yesterday, I was thinking, this is like what it was like when I was a kid. Like you just went out because there was nothing else you could do. And that's how I feel right now. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, exactly. And so, now the temptation is to get lost in your iPad or your devices. And I mean, I get it. I'm not judging people who are getting through this tough time by keeping their brain busy, but you just got to decide whatever's best for you and be your own coach. Look out for, making sure that you are, you're bringing out the best. You want the best for the best in yourself, right? And so you align your actions with that ambition, and you'll probably be fine.
I get you. So, I appreciate the time. I don't want to eat too much more of your time. What's the best way for people to reach out to you and follow and see what you got going on as far as Invictus or just yourself?
They can. Probably the best thing is, they can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is it's pretty simple. It's just Jim Cressman Invictus. So that's JimCressman, and then the word Invictus. It's all one word, INVIT. INVICTUS. I caught myself on my own spelling. And so that's probably the best way to follow me, and that's where I load up the most content. I keep it. It's a combination of everything I'm passionate about, whether it's fitness, my clients, their content, and family. And so that's probably the best way for people to get an idea of who we are and what we stand for.
And you keep your website up to date pretty much, or at least it seems like it.
Yeah, we've got a website, www.iegroup.ca, and then we also have Invictus Facebook and Instagram and Twitter accounts as well.
I'll make sure I tag
I can
those.
send those off to you, and you can populate them. Sure.
Yeah, I'll put that on the website, and then I'll make sure I'll tag it as much as I can on everything. It's kind of what I do. So I really appreciate the time.
I like it.
And I got a new person to follow. There's a new book. I don't know if you mentioned Joe Rogan. He just had Dan Crenshaw on his podcast last week.
Yeah, I like Dan.
And he's got a new book called Fortitude. And if you get a chance, I can't believe I'm pimping out somebody else's podcast, but Joe's podcast with him I think it was, let's say it's Thursday, maybe it was Monday. He talks a lot about what you were talking about as the fortitude. It's in his book about you have to push yourself, you have to be disciplined, you have to do these things to yourself. It was just interesting that you were bringing a lot of that up, and I just heard it like 3 days ago. So it might be a good podcast for you to listen to.
Yeah, and it's totally no. And you know what? It's not new wisdom. No. I mean, everybody's been saying this from the beginning of time, right? It's like, there's and in modern society, there was a time where there was no such thing as the convenience of comfort. Even if people go, well, there was always an aristocracy, but it's like, yeah, but being the aristocracy in 1291 would have been shitty too compared to modern standards.
Everything's relative.
In the year 1291. Yeah, totally. It's like now the danger is apathy. The danger is becoming addicted to comfort. Those are the things that we need to be vigilant about. And the only way that I've found myself to healthily get out of those spaces is to push myself physically as much as I can on a daily basis. And then, the other thing it does as well is it builds up your intrinsic ability to deal with adversity in your job and in the rest of your life, because, you've already been conditioned to do that. You've been conditioned to push through. And if you're conditioned to push through physically, that means you've got to do it mentally and emotionally. And if you already have those tools in hand, then the next time something comes up and slaps you in the face in life, and it's just a matter of time before that happens, at least you have some semblance of dealing with something hard, right? And I don't know if that's valued enough. I don't know if getting on fights on Twitter about politics is like, if that actually helps. There's a bunch of things that we can do and that we've got the ability to do, but it's like, maybe just putting yourself in a position where you're forcing yourself out of your comfort zone is maybe the best thing that we can do for ourselves every day.
I think that's going to be the tagline for this episode. Just so you know.
Love it.
So I appreciate the time.
Man. Well, I appreciate the time. I appreciate you reaching out, and let me know when you air it. We'll make sure we pump it up on our socials too. Yeah, and if you ever get a chance when you come down to LA, or do you ever go to the NFR? I have been to the NFR. It's been years, but if I get down there, I'd love to meet in person. That would be great.
Yeah, bring some of your guys down. Set up some gigs down there.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, buddy, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jim. All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.